about the song that personifies Christmas in your mind, and I was hoping you'd sing it for us, but tell us about the song that most personifies Christmas for you. And
Kathy and I were talking a few days ago, and it reminded me the first time I was ever away from home for Christmas. It was something you don't expect. You don't expect it'll catch you the way that it does. Mm-hmm. You don't expect that it'll affect you that way. And it was the first time I was away from home for Christmas. No Christmas tree, no Christmas presents, no family, no friends. I was out. I had to work to take care of some very, very important things, and I didn't expect it. And I spent the whole of Christmas Day lying in bed watching, of all things, The Notebook. I had I had never ever seen The Notebook before, and it's such a heavy, heavy show. And, and it gets you because you don't see that in the very beginning. It's kind of a light-hearted love story, and then all of a sudden it ends with this big old slap. And you're, so I was already upset.
I love that movie.
It was a great movie, and I was already lonely and very upset. And so, but I learned that God has a very cool way of getting our attention. That night, the whole week I had been performing for a group of people, and this couple had come every night, and they talked about their parents, the father who was very ill, the mother who was very ill as well. And I didn't know the circumstance, but they had their older sister with them, and she was really the caregiver for those two. So that particular day we were in Maui, and she takes a drive with the whole family up to the road to Hana, which is a gorgeous. If you ever go to Maui, you have to take that drive without children.
Okay. All right.
Otherwise, you'll spend the whole trip looking at beauty, hearing, "Are we there yet?" Oh,
right.
You don't want to do that.
Right.
So they on the road there, they had my Christmas CD, and they were playing the CD, and the Lord's Prayer came on. Now, this lady walked up to me that night at Christmas, and I'm smiling. Mm-hmm. I'm very upset. My heart is broken, but I come to do my job. I come to give my gift freely. And so she looks across. She comes walking in. She's all Catherine Deneuve, hair is pulled back. She's all slick in her little Chanel suit, and she's in black, and she's very stern. And she says, I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to tell me exactly what this means to you. So she tells me this story. They're driving on the road to Hana. The Lord's Prayer comes on. Her mother, who has Alzheimer's, reaches over, takes her hand, and looks her in the eyes and sings it to her like she did when she was a little girl, and called her name and said, "Thank you so much for what you're doing for me." Wow. And she said it's the first time in 4 years that her mother has known her name, or known her, or even talked to her. And she goes,
"Oh, that means so much."
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And I looked at her, and she's looking at me expectantly, like, I'm like, well, that was a God moment. I had nothing to do with that. And she just broke down and cried. She goes, "I just don't know what I would have done if you had said, 'Oh, my song.'" She goes, and I said, "Would it have mattered? If it was me, if my ego was in the way, or if I thought it was anything but God, would it have been anything other than God for you?" And so it doesn't really matter where my heart was, but it was important to her.
Yes.
It was important to her. So I guess the responsibility of when you have a great gift, like you're a speaker and you're a speaker, and if you're a psychologist, or if whatever your gift is, you give it with the intention that you don't know where that person is coming from. You give it with everything that you have in you. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you touch people. You move them. You give them something that they can never buy. You give them something of yourself that you didn't purchase, and you can't work for that. You can't plan those kinds of moments. You just give what God gives you. And it came to you free, so you give it freely.
Oh,
and so,
W.T.
So that is what Christmas is.
Yeah,
right?
and if you hadn't been there, I mean, think about, even though you didn't get to son that moment that she had with her mother. As you know, my mother suffers from Alzheimer's, and so I totally, just that few moments, and her mother knew her.
It means
what
everything.
I wouldn't give.
Yeah.
So, would you mind maybe
here's
indulging
the song.
us
Sure.
with, and sing it for us? That'd be
Sure.
wonderful.
Lord, help me if I'm not warmed up. Have mercy. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever.
Wow. What a way to start the Christmas. Oh.